Let me ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with yourself. Have you noticed that even when you eat less, even when you go for walks, even when you try to do everything right, that belly fat just will not move? You wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and wonder what happened. You used to be able to drop a few pounds just by cutting back on bread for a week. You can starve yourself and that fat will stay. Your body is protecting it. But here is the part that changes everything. There are 9 specific foods, ordinary, inexpensive foods that you can find at any grocery store that have been shown in peer-reviewed clinical research to directly attack the biological mechanisms that create and sustain visceral fat. Not by starving you, not by making you miserable, but by changing the internal chemistry of your body at the hormonal, inflammatory, and metabolic level. I am Dr. Hiroshi Sato, and in the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through every single one of those foods, explain exactly why each one works, and tell you precisely how to use them. Stay with me, because what I share with you today could genuinely change your health, your energy, and your life. Before we get into the list, I want to ask you one quick favor. If you are finding this information valuable, and I promise you it only gets better from here, please take one single second right now and hit the subscribe button below this video. One tap, that is all. I release a new video every single week, all of it designed specifically for people over 60, all of it completely free, all of it based on real science. No fads, no supplements I am trying to sell you, just honest information that your body deserves. And while you are down there, leave me a comment. Tell me what city or country you are watching from. I read every comment personally, and I'm always moved by how far this community reaches. Whether you are in Toronto or Tokyo, in London or Lagos, in a small town in rural America or a bustling city in India, I want to know you are here. Drop your location below. It takes 2 seconds and it means more than you know. Now, let us talk about why belly fat after 60 is so fundamentally different and so much harder to fight than belly fat at any other stage of your life. Visceral fat is not the fat you can see or pinch. It is not the soft layer under your skin. Visceral fat lives inside your abdominal cavity. It surrounds your liver, your pancreas, your intestines, your heart. You cannot feel it. Sometimes you cannot even see it. A person can have dangerous levels of visceral fat without appearing dramatically overweight. And it is not just cosmetic. This fat is metabolically active. It functions almost like a hostile organ working directly against your health. Research published in the Journal of the American Medical Association has linked high visceral fat levels to elevated risk of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, and several forms of cancer. So why does visceral fat become so much harder to lose after 60? 3 reasons. The first is hormonal decline. When estrogen and testosterone drop, the body signals fat storage to relocate to the abdomen. This is an ancient survival mechanism. Your biology believes central fat protects your organs in times of famine. It does not know you live in a modern world. It is trying to protect you, and in doing so, it is slowly harming you. The second reason is chronic inflammation. Visceral fat actively secretes inflammatory proteins called cytokines, including interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha. These cytokines make your cells resistant to insulin, slow your metabolism, and make the visceral fat itself harder to break down. It is as if the fat has built its own immune system. The third reason is sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass. After 60, most people lose 3 to 5% of their muscle per decade. Less muscle means a slower resting metabolism, and visceral fat actively accelerates muscle loss. So the more visceral fat you carry, the slower your metabolism, and the more visceral fat accumulates, a biological trap. But every trap has a way out, and the exit here is targeted nutrition. Let me show you exactly what that looks like. Food number 1, avocado. Avocado is one of the most powerful and most underutilized foods available to people over 60. It works through a mechanism that most people have never heard of. Avocado is extraordinarily rich in oleic acid, a monounsaturated fatty acid shown in multiple clinical trials to reduce abdominal fat directly. A landmark study at Penn State University found that participants who consumed 1 avocado per day for 12 weeks experienced a measurable and statistically significant reduction in visceral fat compared to a control group eating the same calories from other fat sources. Oleic acid works by activating a gene pathway called PPAR-alpha, which instructs your liver and muscle cells to use fat as fuel rather than store it. This is a documented molecular mechanism, not a theory. Beyond oleic acid, avocado contains more potassium than a banana, which reduces the water retention and bloating that often makes visceral fat look and feel worse than it is. And its high soluble fiber content feeds the gut bacteria responsible for lowering systemic inflammation, the same inflammation that locks visceral fat in place. Half an avocado per day is sufficient. Add it to eggs in the morning or slice it into a salad at lunch. It is that simple and that effective. Food number 2, blueberries. If there is a single fruit I recommend to every patient over 60 who comes to me concerned about visceral fat, it is the blueberry. Not because it is trendy, but because the science is genuinely remarkable. Blueberries are among the richest dietary sources of anthocyanins, a class of flavonoid antioxidants studied extensively for their effects on fat metabolism. A University of Michigan study demonstrated that animals fed a blueberry-enriched diet accumulated significantly less visceral fat than control animals, even with identical total caloric intake. The calories were the same, the fat storage was dramatically different. The only variable was the blueberries. In human studies, the mechanism operates through 2 distinct pathways. First, anthocyanins suppress fat cell differentiation at the level of gene expression, literally interfering with your body's ability to create new fat cells. Second, they dramatically reduce circulating levels of interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha, the exact inflammatory cytokines that visceral fat uses to sustain and protect itself. 1 cup of blueberries per day is the therapeutic threshold established in the research. Fresh or frozen makes no difference because the anthocyanin content is equivalent in both forms. Add them to yogurt, to oatmeal, or eat them plain. Make this a daily non-negotiable. Food number 3, fatty fish, salmon, sardines, mackerel, herring. These are not just broadly healthy foods. They are among the most targeted visceral fat interventions available in the natural food supply. Fatty fish are the richest dietary source of long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. These omega-3s activate a protein called adiponectin, which circulates through your bloodstream and signals visceral fat cells to release their stored energy and allow themselves to be burned as fuel. Low adiponectin levels are one of the most consistent biological markers of high visceral fat. Omega-3s raise adiponectin, visceral fat falls. Simultaneously, EPA and DHA are among the most potent natural anti-inflammatory compounds known to nutritional science. They directly suppress the cytokine production that visceral fat relies on for its own self-preservation. A study published in the International Journal of Obesity found that adults who consumed fatty fish twice per week lost significantly more visceral fat over 12 weeks than participants eating the same total calories without fatty fish, with no other dietary changes required. 2 to 3 servings per week is the target. If fresh salmon is outside your budget, canned sardines packed in olive oil are equally effective, and you are combining 2 items from this very list at the same time. Food number 4, green tea. Most people think of green tea as a pleasant, mildly healthy drink, a gentle antioxidant, something nice in the morning. Then they see the clinical data, and that perception changes completely. Green tea contains a specific catechin called EGCG, which stands for epigallocatechin gallate. EGCG is one of the most comprehensively studied natural compounds in the scientific literature on visceral fat reduction. A randomized controlled trial published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that participants who consumed green tea containing EGCG daily for 12 weeks lost an average of 17% more visceral fat than the placebo group. Not total body fat, specifically and measurably visceral fat. The mechanism is well understood. EGCG activates an enzyme called AMPK, adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase, which functions as a master metabolic switch in your cells. When AMPK is activated, your cells shift from fat storage mode into fat burning mode, and EGCG drives this process specifically in visceral adipose tissue. 3 cups of warm green tea per day consumed without sweetener. Give it 30 days. The results will be measurable. Food number 5, cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kale. These vegetables share a biochemical property that makes them uniquely effective against one of the most overlooked drivers of visceral fat in people over 60, which is estrogen imbalance. As we age, a process called aromatization causes the body to convert testosterone into estrogen in both men and women. Visceral fat tissue is particularly active in this conversion. More visceral fat means more aromatase enzyme activity, which means more estrogen. Elevated estrogen drives further visceral fat accumulation. The cycle feeds itself and is almost never discussed in conventional medicine. Cruciferous vegetables contain a compound called indole-3-carbinol, which is converted in the digestive process into diindolylmethane, commonly known as DIM. DIM supports healthy estrogen metabolism by guiding excess estrogen toward a safer, less potent metabolite rather than the form that drives fat storage. It essentially disrupts the hormonal environment that visceral fat depends on to grow. One serving of cruciferous vegetables per day is sufficient to produce a meaningful effect. Steam them, roast them, eat them raw. The preparation method matters far less than the consistency of consumption. Food number 6, eggs. For decades, eggs were unfairly and incorrectly vilified. The science has since been thoroughly reviewed and the consensus has shifted dramatically. Eggs are not only safe for the vast majority of adults over 60, they are one of the most powerful metabolic foods you can eat. The reason is protein quality. Eggs contain all 9 essential amino acids in proportions that match human metabolic needs almost perfectly. Protein has a high thermic effect, meaning your body burns more calories digesting it than fat or carbohydrates. It also suppresses ghrelin, the hunger hormone that tends to be elevated in seniors, and provides the raw material your body needs to maintain muscle mass and keep your metabolism high enough to burn visceral fat. Eggs are also one of the best sources of choline, one of the most commonly deficient nutrients in adults over 60. Choline is essential for liver function, and your liver is the primary site of fat oxidation in your body. A choline-deficient liver accumulates fat rather than burning it. 2 to 3 eggs per day is appropriate for most healthy adults. If your physician has advised otherwise, follow their guidance. But if you have been avoiding eggs over outdated cholesterol concerns, the current science strongly supports bringing them back. Food number 7, garlic. Garlic has been used medicinally for over 5,000 years across virtually every culture on Earth. Modern molecular biology is now revealing exactly why it deserves that reputation. The active compound in raw garlic is allicin, a sulfur-containing molecule that is released when garlic is crushed or chopped and allowed to rest before being consumed or cooked. Allicin has been shown in multiple peer-reviewed studies to reduce visceral fat accumulation by suppressing the expression of genes responsible for fat cell formation and lipid storage. A 2011 clinical study demonstrated that garlic supplementation produced significant reductions in total body weight and specifically in visceral fat without any other dietary modification. The effect was attributed primarily to allicin's ability to reduce circulating insulin levels and suppress the genetic machinery of fat cell creation. Garlic also meaningfully reduces cortisol, the stress hormone that becomes chronically elevated in many adults over 60, and that is one of the most direct biological drivers of abdominal fat accumulation. When cortisol is persistently high, your body locks fat in the abdominal region as emergency energy storage. Reducing cortisol helps release that lock. 2 to 3 fresh cloves per day. Crush them. Let them rest 10 minutes before cooking to maximize allicin release and add them to whatever you are already making. Food number 8, legumes, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, kidney beans, white beans. This food category is among the most powerful metabolic interventions available in the entire food supply, and it is dramatically underutilized by people over 60. Legumes have an exceptionally low glycemic index, meaning they cause a slow, modest rise in blood glucose and a proportionally small insulin response. This matters enormously for visceral fat because chronically elevated insulin is one of the primary hormonal signals that drives visceral fat storage. Every significant insulin spike sends a clear message to your body: store fat centrally. Legumes help keep that signal quiet hour after hour throughout the day. Beyond glycemic control, legumes are among the richest dietary sources of resistant starch, a form of prebiotic fiber that passes undigested into the colon and feeds beneficial bacteria. The diversity and health of your gut microbiome has been directly linked in multiple large human studies to visceral fat levels. People with more diverse gut bacteria consistently carry less visceral fat, entirely independent of total caloric intake. 1 cup per day in soups, stews, or salads, inexpensive, filling, and remarkably effective. Food number 9. Extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil is the final food on this list, and in many ways it is the one that ties everything else together. Olive oil is the foundational fat of the Mediterranean dietary pattern, which has been studied in more large-scale human trials than virtually any other dietary approach in the history of nutritional science. Its effects on cardiovascular health, systemic inflammation, and visceral fat are among the most robustly documented findings in the literature. The compound most responsible for olive oil's anti-inflammatory power is called oleocanthal. Oleocanthal inhibits the same enzymatic pathway targeted by ibuprofen, producing a powerful and sustained anti-inflammatory effect that directly undermines the environment visceral fat needs to survive and expand. The critical difference is that oleocanthal does this without the gastrointestinal risks associated with long-term anti-inflammatory drug use, which is a meaningful advantage for adults over 60 who are often already managing multiple medications. The PREDIUM trial, one of the largest nutrition studies ever conducted, found that daily extra virgin olive oil consumption produced measurably lower visceral fat levels compared to low-fat dietary controls, alongside significantly fewer cardiovascular events, 2 tablespoons per day over salads or cooked vegetables. The distinction is extra virgin, not light, not blended. Refining strips away the oleocanthal and polyphenols that make it work. Only extra virgin delivers what the research documents. 9 foods: avocado, blueberries, fatty fish, green tea, cruciferous vegetables, eggs, garlic, legumes, extra virgin olive oil. Each one works through a distinct and documented biological mechanism, addressing visceral fat not as a simple calorie problem, but as the hormonal, inflammatory, and metabolic condition it truly is in people over 60. Together, they create a nutritional environment where visceral fat cannot sustain itself, where the signals that protect and grow it are progressively weakened, and where your metabolism and immune system begin working with you instead of against you. This is not a crash diet or a deprivation protocol. It is 9 foods, most of which you can already find in your kitchen, used with intention and consistency. Here is your 1 action step. Choose 3 of these 9 foods and commit to eating them every single day for 30 days. Just 3. Notice how your energy changes, how your sleep improves, how your clothing fits differently. Then come back and tell me what happened. I read every comment. If this video helped you, share it with someone who needs it. A spouse, a sibling, a parent. The people in your life over 60 deserve this information, and most will never hear it in a standard doctor's appointment. And if you have not subscribed yet, please do it now, free. 1 second. Every week I will be here with more honest, evidence-based guidance designed specifically for your health at this stage of life. I am Dr. Hiroshi Sato. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourself. Your health is worth fighting for, and you are never too old to begin.